Oh yeah. Okay, it is day one. Do you know that it's day one of the Build Your Own Tinder app challenge? Now, I am going to be walking you through as your guide for the next 5 days, teaching you how to build your own apps without any tech people. Now, throughout this video and throughout this week, I'm going to be talking about multiple things. I'm going to be teaching you the theory behind building apps without code. I'm going to teach you the practices of actually building an app without code. You're going to actually build one this week. And also, we're going to talk a little bit about if you have an idea for a business, if you have an idea for an app, how to take some of the things that you're learning this week and apply them. Cool, so we're going to be talking about all that mixed all up this week. So let me share my screen with you because I have put together a really awesome kind of presentation to take you through today, some things that you need to know, some things you need to get ready for. Today is day one. It's kind of like our prep day. You're going to get all of the building blocks because I'm going to throw you into the deep end tomorrow, and we're going to start building tactical stuff tomorrow. And so I need you to have kind of this foundational knowledge so that you know exactly what I'm talking about tomorrow. So let me share my screen. Give me a second. Here we go. All right. So today is day one of our challenge. Now, here's kind of our agenda for today. Number one, I'm going to introduce myself really quickly, just in case we haven't met before. I'll give you a little bit about my background. Number two, I'm going to explain to you more details of how this challenge will work. Then I'm going to teach you actually about the different types of apps that exist. This is kind of some of the foundational knowledge you really need to understand tomorrow and the rest of the week. There's actually 4 different types of apps. Most people think there's just one type of app, but there's actually 4 different types of apps. So we're going to talk about all 4. Then I'm going to show you my toolkit, how to build apps without code, what tools you can use. We're going to be using one particular tool this week, but I want to give you the overall landscape of what it means to build an app without code with different tools. We're going to talk about those tools. Then we're going to do some Tinder app planning, because before you ever build any app, you need to plan what the heck you're going to do with it, right? You need to actually have a plan. So we're going to put together our plan so that tomorrow we just hit the ground running and we have everything planned and plotted out. You always want to give yourself some time before you start building and digging in to plan what the heck you want to happen in your app so you know what's going on. So we'll do that. And then finally, we'll end with a little mini assignment that I have for you. So let's start. I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Tara Reed. A lot of us have met before, but just so you have context, I am a tech entrepreneur. Before becoming a tech entrepreneur, I used to lead marketing initiatives at Google, Foursquare, and Microsoft. So my background is in tech, but it is not necessarily building apps or being an engineer or building all the technical stuff, right? I was a marketer, I was a business person, I sat on the business side of the organization. And so in 2014, I founded a really successful art startup, and I built the company's app and algorithm without writing any code. That's how I learned this stuff. And so this process that I'm going to be showing you this week of coming up with great app ideas, building them without any tech people, and then charging people to use that app got me $150,000 in revenue and $300,000 from investors who wrote checks and said, here, we want to see you take this to the next level. Here's some money. I was able to do all of that in just 1 year, my first year as an entrepreneur. So I'm going to be kind of unpacking some of those learnings and teaching them to you along the way throughout this week. So I've been really blessed to be featured in some awesome publications. Entrepreneur Magazine featured me in their Young Millionaires edition last year. Forbes has done some really fun articles on how to succeed in Silicon Valley when you don't look like Mark Zuckerberg. And I've also done a really fun TED Talk, which now has almost 300,000 views. And through this process, through learning and trying different things, trial and error, because there really wasn't a blueprint when I started, I taught myself how to build an app without code. That's what I'm going to be teaching to you this week. And the first version of the app that I built for myself, I launched a company called Collecto in 2014. The first version of the app that I built with no code got me my first $35,000 in revenue and my first $100,000 investment from 500 Startups, which is a top accelerator in Silicon Valley. So again, that's just kind of my little introduction to just give you a little context on who the heck you're talking to and who Tara is. But here's again our agenda for the day. So introductions, we did that already. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how this challenge is going to work. Like, give me the details of what I should be expecting this week. So how the challenge works. Here's how this challenge is going to work. It's a 5-day challenge. So there are 5 days of mini assignments to do, or videos to watch and assignments to do. However, I understand that life pops up. So you actually have 7 days in total to complete the challenge. You actually have until Sunday to complete the challenge. So if you get behind on a day or whatever it might be, that's okay, you can catch up. Also, I want you to know that after the 7 days, the challenge will disappear. All of the content, all of the videos, all of it will be gone because this challenge is something that I only make available to folks who are in my coaching program. We can talk more about that if you're interested, but if you're in my coaching program, you'll have access to this for life. If you're doing the challenge and you're not in my coaching program, it's gonna disappear on Sunday. So you wanna make sure you get everything done by Sunday. Again, what's gonna happen every single day is you're gonna watch a video about 15, 20 minutes, and you're gonna follow along the video. You can ask questions if things pop up, you get stuck, you're building something and you're not really sure how to fix it. You can ask questions in the Facebook group. It is not mandatory that you be part of the Facebook group. However, I will be answering all questions in the Facebook group. So if you want your question answered, you maybe want to jump in there, or just kind of, if you don't have an account, you can make a fake one just for the purposes of this challenge, but that's where I'll be answering questions. And then also you'll have little mini assignments to do, and you will post your mini assignment in the Facebook group as well. So there's some benefits of having the Facebook group, although it's not required. So let me tell you what your assignment's gonna be today. I'm gonna tell you in advance, and then I'll repeat it again at the end of this video. So your assignment is to watch today's video. You're already doing that. Share one new thing you learned or one insight you had from this video into the Facebook group. So just go in there and type, here's one thing I learned from this video on day one, or here's one insight I had. And make sure you include #day1 and #Tinder challenge into your post. That's your assignment. This is the easy one. We're warming up today because as I mentioned, I'm gonna throw you into the deep end tomorrow. All right. So let's see, let me move my slides. So the next thing I wanna talk to you about and really get you clear on is like, wait a minute, what the heck is an app in the first place? How do you define an app? Really, what is it? So an app is anything where people have to log in with a username and a password. Anything where they log in and they enter the inside of some space that has information about them, but they log in with a username and a password, that is an app. Now, most people only think of one type of app, but there are actually 4 different types of apps. Let me show you what the 4 different types of apps are. The first type of app is called a web app. A web app. This is like when you go to your computer, you open up your computer, you type in facebook.com on your computer, right? You can still log in with your username and your password, you enter the inside, but it's on the web. It's not on your phone necessarily, it's on the web, it's on the computer. It's called a web app. The second kind is called a mobile web app. This is like where you get out your phone and let's say you use Chrome or Safari, whatever you use to hunt the internet, and you go there and you type in facebook.com. You may not even notice this, but the URL where you typed in facebook.com, it changes automatically and it changes to m.facebook.com. And that's because it knows you're on a phone and it's giving you a nicely formatted version of Facebook that looks nice on your web browser. So it's mobile.facebook.com. That's called a mobile web app. You're still on the web, you're still using Chrome or Safari on the internet, but it's a mobile web app. Again, you've seen this before when you type in facebook.com to your phone browser. Now, the third type is the type of app most people think of. This is called a native app, And this is the kind of app that you download from the App Store. So you go to the Google Play Store or the iTunes Store and you download an app from the App Store, and it exists as like a tile on your home screen on your phone. This is like when you download the Facebook app, right? This is what most people think of. They think of native app, right? Now, the fourth type is called a desktop app. A desktop app. This is one that you download also on your computer again, and it exists kind of like in your applications folder on your computer. So an example of this is the traditional Microsoft Word. The traditional Microsoft Word that you download on your computer, that is a desktop app that you can log in with your username and password and get all your files, all of your information in there. So there's actually 4 types of apps. People think there's just one, but there's actually 4. And you can build any of these types of apps for your company and for your idea. In fact, you want to take a look at, well, where are people going to be using my app most? If they're going to be using the app most at work, you may want, and they're going to be sitting at a desk job, you may want to build a web app because they're going to be on the computer most of the time, right? So you want to think about what actually aligns best to the type of business you're building. You can eventually build all 4, but you want to start with one, right? So again, recap. There's web apps, there's mobile web apps, there's native apps, and there's desktop apps. Four types. So again, what's our agenda today? We already did introductions. I introduced you to myself. We talked about how the challenge works and what to expect. And I also just taught you about the 4 different types of apps that are out there. There's not just one, there's 4 types. All right. Now, next we're going to talk about, and again, I'm just giving you an overview today of the stuff you need to know because I'm going to be referencing it for the rest of the week. So this is kind of like 101, and then we're going to do our planning. So the next thing you need to understand is what the heck it means to build an app without code, right? Like, what does that even mean? I thought that you had to be a computer scientist in order to build an app. How do you actually build an app if you don't have any technical experience? So let me walk you through my toolkit of how to build apps without code. Now, here's the thing. Most people think when they come up with an idea for an app, they think the first thing that they need to do is hire an expensive agency to help them build the first version of their app, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with taking this route. The only challenge is that on average, it's gonna cost about $20,000 to hire someone to build an app for you like this. I know when I was getting started, I didn't have $20,000 just laying around for me to spend on an app getting built. I just didn't have it, right? Now, other people think, okay, I got an idea for an app. Here's what I need to do. I need to find a tech-savvy business partner before I can start. And they're hunting high and low, going to meetups, looking on LinkedIn, trying to find a tech-savvy business partner. Again, there's nothing wrong with taking this route. The only challenge is that finding a tech-savvy business partner is a super important, or any kind of business partner, is a super important decision, and it can easily go wrong. It's almost as important as finding the person that you're gonna marry, right? If you guys don't get along, if you guys have differences in visions, it can really have a lasting impact on your business. So there's some risk here and you don't wanna rush it. Now, another thing people say to me is they're like, hey, Tara, I have an idea for an app. So I know what I'm gonna do. The first thing I'm gonna do is teach myself the basics of how to code, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with this. The only challenge is that it takes about a year, maybe 2 years, for you to get proficient enough so that you can build high-level quality apps. And I don't know about you, but when I was starting, I didn't have several years to just learn before I got started. I wanted to get started immediately. So what ends up happening is because of all of these barriers, all of these things that are difficult, people end up completely putting their app ideas on the back burner. They're like, it's impossible. I'm not a tech person. I can't do it. And what ends up happening is they let someone else take and launch their idea because they never moved on it, right? But actually, you don't have to do any of those things that I just mentioned. You don't have to do any of those things in order to build an app. You can actually create apps by using code-free software. So let me show you what I mean by this. Code-free tools or code-free software lets you design apps by dragging, dropping, pointing, and clicking, just like you would design a PowerPoint presentation. And then you logically tell the app what to do in English, not in some other coding language that you have to learn, but in English, which you already know. So you design the app by drag, drop, point, click, and then logically tell the app what to do in English. So my tip for you is to find logic-based software for your app, to build your app. There are a ton of logic-based software tools out there. You don't have to use all of them. You just have to pick the right 1 or 2 that are right for your idea and for your business. Now, for the purposes of this challenge, I'm going to be showing you the one tool that is right for this Tinder app, but I want to give you an overview of the overall landscape as well. So the first tool I want to talk to you about is Wix. Now, most people think about Wix for creating websites, and you can definitely create a website on Wix. However, you can also use Wix to create an app where people log in with their username and password. You can create like a Yelp-like ratings and reviews system like you see on the screen. People can say what they thought about the Manhattan cocktail bar. Or you can create flight booking systems where people say their start date and their end date and where they want to travel, and they want an aisle seat or a window seat and a vegan meal, and it books the travel. So you can use Wix to create a member login portal app where people log in and enter the inside of the app. AppSheet is another really cool tool. Now, AppSheet allows you to create your own app by just starting with a spreadsheet. Many of you have used a spreadsheet before, right? So you start with a spreadsheet, and AppSheet takes your spreadsheet and instantly turns it into an app. So you can show different locations on a map. You can have people sign for things or type things in. You can show data on a graph. You can show images. You can do all sorts of things where people are interacting back and forth with your app. And you use a spreadsheet as your database that has all your customers and all their information inside of it, right? So AppSheet allows you to take a spreadsheet and turn it into an app. And this app can be on iPhone, Android, or on the web. Mighty Networks is another really cool tool that I love. Now, Mighty Networks allows you to create your own social network app. So everyone gets their own profile. People can follow each other. There's a feed of different people's posts, and people can like each other's posts. Folks can poll each other, start different forum discussions, etc. So Mighty Networks allows you to create your own social network app. ShareTribe is another great tool. ShareTribe allows you to create your own marketplace app. Now, what do I mean by marketplace? A marketplace is where people buy and sell things from each other, right? So think Airbnb, right? So ShareTribe allows you to create your own marketplace where people can post things for sale or for rent. People can buy and sell from each other, etc. Thinkific is a really cool tool for creating your own education app. So if you want to teach people something where there's videos and tutorials and discussions and lessons and audio and all sorts of stuff like that, Thinkific gives you your own education platform and app. Motion AI allows you to create artificial intelligence chatbots without writing any code. Stencil allows you to create video games without writing any code, and these video games can be on iPhone, iPad, Android, Windows, etc., right, or on the web. No coding required for any of these tools. Here's an example of a video game that was created by someone just like me and you who had an idea for a game but no idea how to write code. And so what I would like to do now is welcome you to the future. Welcome you to the future. Because myself and a lot of folks in this industry, in this code-free space, we believe that by 2025, most software won't be made by coders, but instead by people from diverse backgrounds using logic. Because to build apps, you no longer need to be a software developer or use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Perl, PHP, Python, any of those coding languages. In fact, you don't even need to write a single line of code. You can use English, which you already know. So welcome to the future. That is what is now possible. There are a ton of tools out there for you to use. You just have to find the right tool for what you're building. And we can talk more about that. I do a lot of coaching on that kind of work. So we're talking about introductions. I already gave you my introduction. I explained how the challenge works. I talked to you about the 4 different types of apps: web apps, native apps, mobile web apps, etc. We talked about the tools that are out there for you to use and how to build an app without code. So now we're going to move on and actually do a little bit of work talking about kind of the different options of types of apps that are out there, and then do some Tinder planning for our challenge this week. Now, before we jump into all of the Tinder planning, I want to talk to you about the tools that I just told you, because you might be wondering, wait a minute, how do I know which one of those tools to use, right? So when you think about the app that you are building, almost everyone who's listening to this video, 99.99999% is building one of these 5 types of apps. So let me walk you through the 5 types of apps you might be building. And if you have an idea for an app, you can listen to this and figure out which one is closest, which of these 5 is closest to what you want to build. So the first type of app is a recommendation app. This is where you're matching people to people or people to things. You're matching or you're recommending things to people. That's the main thing that the app does. Number 2 is a buy from options app. This is where the main thing inside of the app, once they've already paid or already signed up, is that they see a bunch of different things that they can buy from and they choose. So for example, a crowdfunding app like Kickstarter, where you see all the different Kickstarter campaigns and you choose which one you want and you contribute money. That's a buy from options. Or Airbnb is a buy from options. You see all the apartments and you choose from the options, right? So buy from options is the second type. The third type is process, we call it progress tracking. So the main thing that your app is doing is it's tracking a process or tracking progress. If you want to track how many hours you worked for your freelance job, that would be process tracking. Uber is process tracking as well. Your car is here, now it's there, now it picked you up, now you're there. You're just tracking progress in a process, right? Now, number 4 is a community app. The 4th type of app you could be building, and this is where you're giving people access to a community. They're free to meet up and match up on their own or talk to each other on their own. So Facebook is a community app and Twitter is a community app, right? And then finally, the fifth type is an education app. Now, I do not mean that you are building your app in the education industry. I mean that the main thing that your app does is teach people something with lessons and videos and tutorials and stuff like that, right? That's the fifth type. Now, you might be wondering, hey, Tara, wait a minute. I'm building an app that has multiple components of these. Your job is to figure out which one is the main thing your app does. So if the main thing your app does is give recommendations, but it also teaches people something, you want to think about, well, wait a minute, if I had to take one away, which one would have the most impact, right? Which one needs to stay in order for the app to still be useful, right? So if your main thing is giving people recommendations, the education is a nice to have, right, in that scenario. The main thing is the recommendation. So for yourself, figure out what's the main thing. And one of the things that's really important for us in building apps without code and building apps with limited resources is to keep the main thing, right? Because there's always extra stuff that we can do. But we want to keep the main thing to build the app and get it done in lightning speed time. So these are the 5 different types of apps. Now, based on which type of app you're building, you're going to use a different software tool. If you want to know more about the different software tools you use based on each different one, I'm happy to talk more about it. And we're going to be learning all of that in my training program. It's called Apps Without Code Bootcamp. It's an opportunity for us to work together on your app idea and actually get it up and running in 2 months. So if you want to know exactly which tool to use for each one of those apps, that program would be a really good next step for you. So last thing we need to do before I give you the assignment is a little bit of planning on this app we're going to start tomorrow, this Tinder app. Now, whenever you sit down and you're going to start planning for an app, and you always want to plan first, you want to think about the 3 most important actions someone needs to take in your app. And you want to clearly articulate this for yourself before you start building so things don't get out of control. So let me kind of show you an example here. Here are a couple different logos at the bottom of the screen of companies I think you've heard of before, right? Facebook, for example. What are the 3 most important actions for somebody to use Facebook? Well, you have to be able to follow friends, post updates, and like posts from your friends. Those are the 3 most important actions, right? Notice I kept them really simple. These are something I can explain to a kid or a kindergartner, right? I'm not getting flowery and fancy. If Facebook only did those 3 things, it would still be Facebook, right? Or what about YouTube? YouTube could be upload video, watch video, comment on videos, right? 3 most important actions, right? So you get a sense of kind of how this works for other companies where you can hone in on the 3 most important things and they can focus on those 3 most important things. Now, over time, they may have extra bells and whistles, but if you notice, the first version of their app mainly just had those 3 things, right? You often don't want to compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Facebook has been around for years. They've had lots of time to add stuff. If you look at their first version, it did 3 main things, right? So now I also just want to take a look at this Tinder app we need to create, right? Because this Tinder app has 3 most important actions as well, and we need to write these down. I encourage you to get a piece of paper out and write this down. We need to write this down to get clear on this. So Tinder, what are the 3 most important things you need to do? You need to complete a profile. Yeah, complete profile. You need to swipe matches so that you can see your matches and swipe right or swipe left. And you need to chat with matches. So after you match with someone, you'll be able to talk to them. Write this down. We're going to be using this as the core of our strategy tomorrow when we start building, but it's important for us to articulate it first. And some food for thought for you if you want to think about this between today and tomorrow. Food for thought is if you have your own app idea, I'd encourage you to write down your 3 most important actions. What are the 3 most important things a user needs to do in your app after they sign up? Keep them simple, but write them down for yourself as well. So we've reached the end of day 1. This is, as I mentioned, just a warm-up. I wanted to give you the 101 foundational knowledge because I'm going to throw you into the deep end and we're going to start building this Tinder app tomorrow. So your assignment for today, 1, watch today's video. Check, you already did that. 2, share one new thing you learned or one insight you had from watching this video and post it in the Facebook group. And make sure you include #day1 and #Tinder challenge. After you do that, I will see you tomorrow for day 2. Roll up your sleeves because we're going to get started actually building now that we have our strategy in place. All right, I'll talk to you soon.